What if your own family became your enemy?
You understand what this means?
I don't want to live like this.
She had tried everything, even asking him for help.
Someone doesn't want you living anymore.
What does it mean to be a family? Familial relationships, in my opinion, are the backbones of an individual. Family means something to come home to. Without it, life becomes meaningless at one point in time. Family gives you something to hold on to, a sense of belonging. It's where your name is spoken without formality and your flaws are known before your strength. And where love isn't earned, but assumed. But what if your own family became your enemy? What if the people you trust with your soul are the ones that are out for it? And the killing blow comes not by blades, but by an entity. Today's story is something like that. Story comes from Rajasthan and is sent by Surbi. And this is the story of a grandmother. This happened back in the 80s. Surbi's grandmother, Anjali, belonged to an opulent family of merchants, the Agarwals, and they lived in a mansion in the city of Bikaner. It was a pleasant winter evening, but the air inside the mansion wasn't so pleasant. The silence inside the Agarwal mansion was a polished and oppressive thing that evening. In the formal drawing room, a portrait of their late father dominated the wall. Anjali was sitting on a sofa and Vikram, her brother, was standing before the portrait. His hands were behind his back and his jaws were clenched tight.
You understand what this means?
Vikram said. His voice was low and controlled, never quite looking at Anjali.
A divorce in our family. It's not just your life, Anjali. It's 2 generations of reputation. It's what people are gonna say about his name. How can you be so selfish?
Though her hands were shaking in her lap, Anjali's voice did not waver.
I am not a placeholder for a reputation, big brother. I am my own person, and I am not happy in this marriage. He abuses me every night, brother. I don't want to live like this.
The argument wasn't about money, it was about honor and the shame Anjali had allegedly dragged into their lineage by simply wanting to leave an unhappy marriage. You see, Anjali was married to a man that was abusive in more ways than one. To Anjali, that marriage was a prison where she was used and abused daily by a monster of her husband. After months of this, Anjali finally decided that she'll be divorcing her husband and leaving to be on her own. And Vikram simply didn't want that, because for him, a divorce in the family means a tarnish on their reputation. Vikram then turned towards her.
Reputation is everything.
He spat in a rage, but her decision was final.
Does it save me from getting beaten every night?
Anjali's eyes were glaring at Vikram, and he had no words, but his hands clutched so tight that his knuckles turned white. Anjali wanted out of this abusive marriage, and not even her brother could stop her from doing it. She had tried everything, even asking him for help, and Vikram's answer left her shattered, because his answer was just to compromise. In other words, to take it and shut up about it. After all, reputation was more important than happiness. That night, Anjali left. She talked to a lawyer, got her divorce filed. She sold whatever jewelry she had, so she had enough cash in hand to rent a house in the city. In a week, she had landed a job as a receptionist in a hotel. Things looked good. A stable income source, a house of her own, small as it may be, and most importantly, freedom. Freedom from that prison of a marriage, and that made it all worth it. Anjali was living, and for the first time in her life, she was living for herself. 4th week of being free, Anjali was returning home from her work. She was on the bus, the window was open, and she was enjoying the pleasant wind after a long day at work. It was almost 7:30 in the evening and it had already gone dark. When she reached home, she saw that the front of her door looked a little different. The threshold of the door had a patch of wet concrete. It looked like a renovation was recently done, but the owner hadn't notified her of any changes or any repairs that were supposed to be done today. But renovation was renovation, small as it may be, so she thought nothing of it and just went inside. After a few days though, things started to get a little strange. She began feeling watched, not constantly but just enough to unsettle her. A feeling that something just lingered out of sight. She just chalked it up to stress and adjustment to her new life. Then something happened that freaked her out even more. One evening, she was making dinner. Her back was towards the hallway and she was stirring the pot. She felt something cold on her neck, a soft gust of wind that made her shiver. She felt it on her back, like someone just breathed on her neck. Strange. A breeze coming from the hallway? Did she leave the main door open? She went to check. The door was closed. The main door was closed. So where did the breeze come from? Well, the kitchen window was open. Maybe the breeze came from there. But if it did come from there, it would have hit her face first, not her back. It was a very strange experience, but nothing much to worry about. Then, she started to hear whispers in her house. Just murmurs, silent voices that felt mocking and laughing. Laughing at her. It was especially prominent when she was cooking. Maybe it was coming from the neighbors, or maybe she was just stressed. One evening, she was back in the kitchen making some dinner when she heard a giggle. It was clear and she heard it clearly. It sounded childish. She turned to look and she froze. There was a pair of eyes staring at her from the kitchen door. She froze for half a second and then screamed. Then she ran towards her bedroom and didn't look back. She locked the doors and just stayed on her bed. That night passed in fear. The only saving grace was the altar in her bedroom. You see, Anjali was religious and she had a small shrine built in her bedroom that she used to worship every day. And on that shrine was a booklet of Hanuman Chalisa. For those who don't know, Hanuman is said to be the god who holds absolute dominance over everything evil, demonic or ghostly. And Hanuman Chalisa is the mantra that is capable of keeping away any evil. So with it, she felt safer and more protected. She just stayed in her bed, clutching the booklet, hoping that the night would pass sooner. That night, she understood that this wasn't stress or heat or adjustment to a new life or something like that. This was something else entirely. But she was a single divorced woman in the 80s and she didn't have anywhere to go for help. Every day was a fight, on the job to keep up appearances and at home fighting fear. With time, the whispers grew sharper. Sometimes she felt like her reflection lagged behind her movements in the mirrors. She would wake up to nightmares of her standing barefoot at the door, her body not under her control. Then the night came. That night which forced Anjali to take action immediately. She was in the bed, sleeping. A booklet of Hanuman Chalisa was under her pillow, assured that no harm would come to her. Soon, she fell asleep. Then, she found herself standing near a river. Standing on the bank, she could see the edge of the woods and the flowing water. Then, she heard sobbing. It sounded painful, and she found herself walking towards it. Soon, she found herself standing behind a woman. The woman was sitting cross-legged on the sand. She had a tattered red sari draped across her figure, and the weeping came from her. Her body was shaking with each sob. Her head was hung low and her hair was open. Peering from that woman's shoulder, she could make out a bundle in her lap. It looked like a baby. She could make out the chubby arms and legs. And then she saw his face and froze in shock. Its face was of a grown man. Its head was unnaturally big and it had a beard, but its limbs were small, like a toddler, and the weeping was coming from that. Anjali screamed and the crying stopped. Then that woman's head turned towards her and that woman had no face. Anjali's scream was cut off midway and her eyes widened in fear. Then in the blink of an eye, that woman turned and lunged at Anjali, and she found herself waking up at the bed. She sat up, heaving, crying. She drank some water from the nightstand and clutched her head, partly in confusion and partly in fear and partly in sheer frustration. That night, she couldn't sleep anymore. When she reached her job, she was haggard, poorly dressed, and didn't look fresh. She had bags under her eyes. When the hotel manager saw her, he understood that Anjali was going through some trouble. He told her to take a leave and get some rest, but that only made things worse. The more she stayed in the house, the worse her condition became, the worse her nightmares got. Then her health started to decline. Desperate and tired, Anjali sought help. From one person to the other, from one ascetic to the other, she kept searching for a solution. Many talked to her, but once she shared her experiences, they all surrendered. Finally, one day she found a wandering ascetic. When she told him of her problems, he listened without interruption. When she finished, he nodded once.
Betty, I think I know what's troubling you, but to confirm, I'll have to come to your house.
Anjali agreed. They both reached her house, but the ascetic refused to cross her threshold. Anjali asked,
Is something the matter?
Yes, and the matter is big, Betty. Someone wants to take you out.
His words confused Anjali. What did he mean by taking her out?
What do you mean, Baba?
What I mean is, someone doesn't want you living anymore.
The ascetic replied.
What?
The ascetic didn't respond. Instead, he closed his eyes and started to whisper something under his breath. After a few moments, he opened it.
There is something buried in your threshold. It was fed with blood that belonged to you.
The word blood made many things clear for Anjali. She knew what was being talked about.
Totka?
She half asked, half confirmed. The ascetic nodded in affirmation.
Is there any solution to this?
The man nodded in confirmation again.
Then let's do it.
There are things you need to prepare first.
Consider it done.
Then we start in 3 days.
In the 3 days, Anjali had prepared everything the ascetic asked for. Finally, when the day came, Anjali was given a choice.
Betty, there are 2 things I can do. 1, I can negate whatever was done, and 2, I can send it back. Tell me, what do you want to do?
Anjali thought for a moment. She was a woman who had suffered a lot, from her abusive husband to her brother who cared more about optics and reputation than her peace. She had seen the worst humanity had to offer. In her mind, she had a lingering doubt that it was her ex-in-laws who did this witchcraft on her. So if deflecting it even did a tiny bit of damage, she would consider that her payback. But Anjali didn't have any idea of how severe the backlashes of these things are.
Deflect it back.
Anjali steeled her resolve.
As you wish.
The ascetic replied. Then they performed a ritual and dug the threshold of her door. There they found a totem. It was a set of bones that were wrapped in hair and had blood splashed on it, and it was covered in a red cloth, and finally a nail was pierced through it. The ascetic took it and performed a few more things on it. All the while, Anjali sat through the ritual, her hand clasped. Finally, when all his preparations were done, the ascetic then burned it. As soon as it was done, a guttural scream echoed through the house, and then silence. The relief was immediate. Anjali felt as if years' worth of negativity and stress had just been lifted off of her. She felt light.
You're free now, Betty.
The ascetic smiled at her. Anjali smiled back.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you very much.
The ascetic placed a hand on her head as a blessing and then left. After that, the first thing Anjali did was sleep, and she slept like a baby. Anjali never felt watched ever again. Her life continued in peace. In the coming weeks, she met someone she genuinely liked. He was a widower and he worked as a clerk in a bank. Life went on and they planned to start a family together. After a month, she got a letter in the mail. It was from the accountant of the Agarwal family. The letter stated that she was to inherit the properties of Agarwal family following her brother's death. Her brother was dead. Vikram was dead. And not just Vikram, her sister-in-law and her nephew were dead as well. When she made contact to understand what had happened, it was revealed that her brother had gone insane following the death of his wife and his son. The first to go was her nephew. then her sister-in-law, and finally, Vikram went mad and then he died. That's when she understood it wasn't her ex-in-laws that had performed the black magic on her. It was her own brother. Never in a million years could she have imagined that her brother would do something like this. For a split second, she regretted her decision of deflecting it back. After all, she loved her brother. Then she remembered the apathy that he had shown towards her suffering, and she changed her mind. Maybe this was for the best. Sometimes family can turn out to be your worst enemy. Anjali remarried, had 3 children and many grandchildren. In 2019, she passed away peacefully, surrounded by her loved ones. And this story was sent by one of her grandchildren, Surbhi. This was today's story. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe if you want more stories like these. This was a story where the curse was intentional, but if you want to see what happens when someone is cursed by mistake, watch this video right here. And I'll see you there. I'm Vivek and you're watching Graveline Stories. Till the next time.